Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 114 Rides. Today we're looking at a 2004 Honda Accord V6 3-liter Vtec, and we're going to take a look at some of the areas that these motors tend to leak, either because of failed gaskets, rubber, etc. This engine has approximately 140,000 miles on it, and I've noticed a couple areas where we have some oil leaks. A sign that you have oil leaks, obviously dripping on your driveway, and especially if you're idling and you smell a burning oil, usually dripping on the exhaust manifold. That's when you know you're going to have to take a look at some of these areas. Okay, we got our gaskets over here. This is going to be our Vtec gasket. It's got a little mesh screen right there. We're going to be replacing that. Okay, this is going to go behind where the oil filter mounts to, I believe. Don't quote me. Okay. And then these are opposite side of your timing gears and camshaft. The back side of the camshaft, these also get seals, so we're going to do 2 of those. And then we also have an oil pan bolt. Mobile one. We're going to go with the 5W30. Mobile one oil filter. Pick set, flat blade screwdriver, and of course various hand tools. First place we're going to take a look, we're going to get this cover off here. Get the valve cover. Okay, I've already loosened everything up. 1, 2, 3 coil packs. 9mm metric Allen head screws. Break them loose. The reason we're taking a look here is because you see this rubber is starting to deteriorate around some of the mounting bolts here to the valve cover gasket. What happens is, get one of our coils out here gently so you don't lose any rubber down in your spark plug tube. And what typically happens is you have a rubber gasket right here. That's going to keep any oil out from going down into the spark plug tube. So, just want to inspect our coil. This one looks fairly dry, has a little, drop on it, but it's not saturated and the tube isn't filled. And same thing, I'm just going to go down the line. Gently take it out. You don't want to lose any of these rubber pieces in there. They're a pain to get out. Okay, rubber looks good, coil looks good. A little moist, same as the other one, but not bad. Third coil, dry as a bone. Okay, so we know that 1, 2, 3 seals are good. We're going to call this good and move on. Alright, so it looks like we have some oil coming out of this backside cam cover. And potentially underneath this portion right here. So we want to make some room for ourselves. So what we'll do is we'll disconnect the oxygen sensor. Okay. Just use your fingers and then you can pry it out with a flat blade screwdriver. 14mm bolt right here to loosen this bracket. Since you have your coils already disconnected from the inspection of the valve cover, you can go ahead and we can loosen up these 2 10mm. Put them up to the side. That'll give us a little bit more play over here. So we can get inside here and we can get to these 2 gaskets. Right here is the Egr valve. 2 12mm nuts hold that down. So once you have that unbolted, front and back, you can slide this off, put this to the side. That's going to give us plenty of room to work on our back cam cover right here. You have 1 bolt, 2 bolts. We'll back those bolts out. I'm going to pop that cover. I'll show you guys how to clean it and replace the O-ring. Okay, so the rear cam cover is removed. Got a piece of paper towel stuffed in there. We had a little bit of residual oil leak out. And then our pan is the cover itself with the original O-ring. We're going to spray it with a little parts cleaner, wipe it down with our paper towel, and we're going to use a pick to gently remove the old, dry, and rock hard O-ring without marring the surface of our cam cover. Alright, back behind the throttle body, the hard line that we removed from our intake tube, just follow that down, okay? You have a clamp here you take off of this rubber hose and one clamp right here, and you're going to want to slide this out. This is going to be jammed in there from all the heat, so you're going to have to slowly work it out with a flat blade screwdriver, taking care not to puncture this hose, okay? And it should be able to just walk right out. What that's going to do is give us a little bit more space in here to move this around, because right at this green fitting, there's a bracket mounted to our cam cover. Directly underneath this green fitting right here is a 10mm nut, okay? So you're gonna have to get a long socket, 10mm, with your ratchet, get underneath there and back it out. Two-handed, taking care not to drop the nut down into the motor. Okay, so the bracket's removed. There's actually two 10mm nuts that have to be removed, and you can see that these two are incorporated with this particular cam cover. I was able to get a ratchet on this top 12mm and remove that. Under here is a coolant line, so what I did was I used an open-ended wrench and I put a second open-ended wrench on top of that for leverage, and I was able to break that loose. And we're going to back that out with our fingers. You're going to have to tug on that coolant hose a little bit. Okay, and she's out. Okay, so both cam covers are cleaned up. All right, the mating surface for the new O-ring all the way around is nice and clean. All right. With the two new O-rings out of the package, we're going to just roll this on into the groove. Okay. Like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to apply a little bit of white lithium grease to both of these O-rings before we reassemble. Okay, one thing that's important to mention is that once we have our new O-ring installed on the cover and we have it nice and lubed up with the grease, we're going to want to send our 12mm bolts in loosely. And what we're going to do is we're going to tighten these evenly and walk this cover back in, ensuring not to tighten one side too much than the other. You want to jump back and forth, and work that in nice and easy, taking care not to roll that O-ring. Okay, our cam covers are reinstalled. That's in the front. There's the rear. Just one more tip to note for reassembly. The Egr valve, before reassembling, just make sure you clean up that mating surface real good. You have a lot of oil and build up from all the years, and it looks like this may have been the first time that this has been removed. So like I said, just get that real nice and cleaned up before reassembling to ensure a proper seal. The next gasket we're going to address is mounted behind the housing for your oil filter. What this is going to require is that you jack your car up. Okay, we have our car up on jack stands. All right, passenger tire is removed, and the wheels are turned all the way to the right to give us a little bit more room. This plastic cover needs to be removed. You have one clip up here. Underneath, we have a 10mm in this corner, and then we have a series of clips. One there, and one here in the corner. we'll slide out this piece of plastic, and I'll show you guys how we're going to remove this part. Okay, underneath the car, you can see we have quite a bit of oil in the pan. I suspect that that is from the gasket we're looking to replace. We also have a large buildup on the front of the pan there, also on the side where our crankshaft is. So loosen up your 17 millimeter. We're going to let the oil out before we remove this portion to replace the gasket. Okay, let that drain. After this is all drained, we'll plug that back up with our brand new plug, and then we'll remove the oil filter. Okay, so all the oil's drained out of the motor. We've reinstalled the new drain plug, wiped up the oil pan best we could for now, and now we remove the oil filter. So we're going to let the last drops of that oil come out, and then we have 3 12 millimeter bolts we got to take out. 1, 2, 3, and don't forget there's one sensor that we have in the back that we have to disconnect. We should be able to remove this unit. Gasket will be on the back side. Okay, we remove the housing for the oil filter. You can see the gasket. Okay, that's attached to the block of the motor. Now what I did was I rolled that out of the way. There's an additional sensor on the top. It has 2 10 millimeter bolts. For now, to save a little bit of time, we'll keep that attached. But we make sure that we're going to clean up the mating surfaces perfect before we reassemble. The way we're going to get this gasket out is we're going to use one of our picks, and we'll slowly work it out. Just remember, it's going to be brittle, may break. Just take your time. Try not to mar any of the aluminum. Okay, so with my pick, I worked it from the top here and brought it out. I'll just slowly roll this filter out, just like that. And she's out. She's ready to get cleaned up and ready to reassemble. Okay, I got all my surfaces cleaned up. I used a combination of parts cleaner first, then I went over it with a Q-tip, blew it out with some compressed air, and then went over it with a Q-tip a second time. You can also see the mating surface is nice and clean as well. So our new gasket with our screen, we'll match it up to our old one. They match. We'll go ahead and reinstall this and torque our bolts down to the proper spec. Okay, so everything is reassembled. All right, just remember, lubricate your new gasket with some fresh motor oil. Same thing goes with your new oil filter. Make sure the rubber on there gets a little coat of fresh motor oil. All right. You don't want to over tighten these bolts. You want to work in a crisscross pattern. Get everything tight with your ratchet, and you can go either a quarter to a half turn beyond that to cinch it up. Don't forget to plug back in your sensor right there in the green. Okay. And that's about it. We wiped everything down the best we could. We're going to look for any more oil leaks in the future. But I think that these 3 gaskets should isolate our leaking problem. In the springtime, when the weather gets a little bit better, we're going to go ahead, we're going to simple green everything, pressure wash it, get this car looking nice and tip-top again. We're going through the middle of the winter now, so it's a little bit rough. But like I said, we'll isolate our oil leaks, and we'll see what happens from there. I hope you guys learned something today. Thank you again for watching 114 Rides. There'll be a link in the description box below with the gaskets. And that's about it. We're going to fill her up with some brand new Mobil 1, and she'll be back on the road. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you again. Bye-bye.